everyone, it's me Jazzy and I'm here with another video. So before we start things off with this video though, I do want to once again apologize for not being able to make any more content as of late, especially for this year, as it's honestly been very stressful and difficult for me and my family over these past few months, and I myself haven't been the best exactly, as mental health has been having its ups and downs again, and so lack of motivation hasn't made me want to do any editing or much really on this channel. So it's been very difficult, but thankfully I'm happy to report that I'm slowly getting back on track with things, and I've also got some new ideas that I'm wanting to do to help expand on the channel. So there will be some different ideas that I'll be doing on this channel soon, besides comic dubs. Like, it will probably be ASMR or other types of voice acting stuff. So thank you all for your love and patience. It's really meant a lot, and I do hope you all will continue to be on this ride with us, and just stay tuned for what's to come. Just stay tuned, and thank you again for all your support. But anyways, this is a very special video that I've wanted to make in honor of not only Pride Month, but also to spread some love towards the LGBT community, as it's been very difficult for us this year, and just want to spread some more positivity and love. But this is also a video dedicated to honor and love to a talented and incredible VA known as Maddie Blaustein. Maddie Blaustein was known and remembered as playing as Meowth for the first 8 seasons of Pokemon, along with a few other Pokemon in the show itself. She was also in other shows such as Yu-Gi-Oh!, Kirby Right Back At Ya, and One Piece, and so much more. She had like an incredible range. But Maddie sadly passed away back in December of 2008 from an untreated stomach virus. But she really left such an incredible and huge impact on not just the LGBT and trans community, but also left an impression in the world of voice acting as well too. Even years after she's been gone, she's still loved and remembered to this day, and her story is honestly just truly beautiful and inspiring. And so I wanted to pay tribute to her by talking about an episode of Pokemon that actually inspired and helped Maddie come out as trans. And the episode we'll be discussing and talking about today is Go West Young Meowth, which is the 70th episode of the original anime. In this episode, we end up diving into the bittersweet backstory and origins of Meowth, and how his backstory ended up shaping him into who he ended up becoming before joining Team Rocket, along with learning how he is able to talk and walk exactly like a human. The episode begins with Ash and the gang being invited down to Hollywood for a movie premiere, and although Team Rocket exactly wasn't invited themselves, they're still thrilled and excited about the movie. Except for Meowth himself, as he apparently has a history with Hollywood, which is something of his past that he doesn't want to think about and would actually rather forget. We're then given into a glimpse of Meowth's childhood and backstory, as we see that he didn't have any family or anyone around him, and he was pretty much abandoned with nowhere to go, and was mistreated and punished at a camp. But after learning about the glitz and glams of Hollywood, after seeing a film himself, and learning about they have ice cream and chicken and many other stuff down in Hollywood, Meowth decides to run away and sets off on his journey. We then cut to Ash and the others as they finally arrive in the Hollywood themselves, only to end up discovering and finding themselves in this old rundown town instead of the glitz and glams they expect from Hollywood. They're then greeted by the director, who allows them inside, while at the same time, Team Rocket themselves finally arrive themselves and are about to go inside with the others until Meowth leaves and walks away to take care of some business he has. We then transition back into the past as we see how life was for Meowth once he arrived in Hollywood, as he ended up struggling to find any food without being caught in the process and hurt. But thankfully, he's ended up taken in by a gang of other Meowths and a Persian. That is until one day, Meowth ends up falling in love with another female Meowth named Meowsy. But he's unfortunately rejected by her due to him not living up to her standards and not being a human, and her living the lifestyle of being rich. And so Meowth ends up deciding to become human in order to win Meowsy over and to impress her. And despite some hardships and troubles, Meowth is able to actually succeed, as he's not only able to walk and talk now, but he only hoped that Meowsy would finally approve of him and finally accept him for who he is and love him. But sadly, however, Meowth's hopes and dreams are shattered, as once he returns to Meowsy and shows off his talents, he's quickly dismissed and rejected again, and called a freak by her. After being rejected for another time, Meowth sets off on his own, heartbroken and mad, as he vows to be the richest freak in the world. And this ended up resulting him in eventually landing up in Team Rocket, and then the rest is history from there. We cut right back to the present as Meowth ends up meeting up again with the same Persian and Meowth gang as they encounter him and propose Meowth into coming back as they see his human abilities as useful. Meowth refuses the offer since his heart belongs with Team Rocket, but that's until he ends up discovering that Meowsy herself is now part of the gang. We then later find out that after Meowth left, things ended up changing in Hollywood and the town itself, and she was sadly ended up abandoned and left alone by her own owner after being unable to take care of her, leaving Meowsy on her own before being taken in by the Persian gang. Meowth ends up insisting on helping Meowsy and getting her out of the gang as he sees her as too good for this gang, but then the gang interferes and this results in Meowth being cornered, and before a fight can occur, both Jesse and James luckily arrive, just in time to save Meowth and protect him. Meowth and the Persian decide to have a battle one-on-one and take care of this once and for all, and although Meowth ends up winning fair and square in the battle, it didn't come without a price, as instead of running to Meowth and rewarding him, Meowth ends up staying with the Persian instead as he helped her after being left alone and being abandoned, and she also reveals that she doesn't want to be with Meowth anyways due to him still being a freak in her eyes. And although he is very different in many aspects, Jesse and James still love and appreciate him the same way, no matter what, as after all, he's their freak. We then cut back to the theater as the movie ends, and Ash and the others are rather left disappointed and confused by this outcome as they expected something more, and don't even know why they were invited to this premiere in the first place. But just then, Team Rocket ends up appearing one more time in this episode and does their signature motto, but instead of causing trouble and catching Pikachu like they always do, they just leave after greeting the gang, which results in Ash and the gang being rather confused. The episode then ends with Meowth as we watch him sitting on the roof alone, staring at the moon, still longing for true love and still wondering and thinking about Meowsy. Go West Young Meowth is honestly regarded as one of the best and the standouts of the anime and the first season as a whole, and I can honestly see why, as I thought everything about this episode was just great and well done. The story was compelling and interesting, the pacing was well done, the writing was great, the framing and aesthetic was gorgeously creative, and the characterization was also fantastic, and this is overall such an amazing episode. Now, that's not to say that it's perfect, because as every piece of media is flawed and not perfect, not everything is 100% great. I don't really have any genuine problems that ruined the episode for me, but I will admit that although this episode was definitely a Meowth Team Rocket focused episode, and he 100% deserved all the screen time and focused, I honestly would have liked to see more of Ash and the gang a bit more. Like, don't get me wrong, they were a great framing device for the episode, but I think it would have been nice to see more of them here and there, as we see them observe and discover this old, rundown town in Hollywood, and see it's just nothing but a rundown area. But that's just really a minor nitpick, and really, as everything else, as I said, definitely outweighs the bad in my opinion, and nothing else really ruins the episode for me. It's overall such a great and wonderful episode. And one more thing I've got to add is that I absolutely love how as soon as we transition to Meowth's journey to Hollywood, we immediately cut to Ash and the gang and their imagination of Hollywood, which matches Meowth's version of it as we see in his past. Along with showing the beautiful and grand, how beautiful and grand it all used to be, and showing how not all of Hollywood is perfect. It's such a nice detail, and I loved how it was done. You usually see those transitions in like movies, or how people try to represent Hollywood and see it as this perfect grand place where your dreams come true, but as we know, Hollywood isn't supposed to be how you expect. And I think that was very well done. But honestly, I think the best and most important part of this episode, and also part of what made Meowth to be one of my favorite characters in all of fiction, is how we get to see more of a genuine and softer human side to his character, which definitely adds more layers and depth to him as a whole. And it definitely changes how we, the audience, see him. We see different sides of him that we haven't seen before during this point in the show. And then this definitely continues to play in the rest of the anime as well, too. Because if you think about it, during this point of the anime, we've been so focused on seeing the Team Rocket trio as these comedic, goofy, iconic trio villains who aren't the best at their jobs, of course, but they're always willing to do their best and do anything to make Giovanni proud of them and not disappoint him. And we have gotten some layers to some of them, such as Jessie. When learning about her backstory, we see she wanted to rise above her poverty and wanted to become a Pokemon nurse after the tragic death of her mother. While with James, he ran away from a rich household after being pressured into a forced marriage he didn't want nothing a part of, trying to break free of those restrictions that he had tied up and made him trapped. But with Meowth before this episode, there was always this curiosity and interest when it comes to his character, honestly. Not only when it came to his intelligence and how he was able to be so smart, but also wondering how, unlike other Pokemon, he's the only one who's able to speak actual human language. But also, along with him being such a relatable character that anyone can relate to. We're giving insight into him that none of us never thought we even know or even really care about before. And with Team Rocket's backstories, we are given insight into how their past ended up shaping them into how they ended up getting into Team Rocket and how that shaped them into who they are today. And why exactly they do what they do. And even if you did find them annoying throughout the show or just as a whole and found their actions terrible, you can at least sympathize with them and understand their motivations and reasons. And similar to Jessie and James themselves, Meowth has always had this desire and wants to be loved and accepted just as everyone else. Since after being abandoned and left behind with nowhere to go, he was willing to be accepted and do anything for anyone, even if that came at the cost of his own happiness and feelings. Even when those around him didn't really care or respect him. And we see a huge part of that during this episode here, as after falling in love with Meowth, she ended up rejecting him for not being human. He was willing to change himself and do anything to win her affection and love, and finally be accepted by her, but was still not good enough and was called a freak. And I think anyone who's been in Meowth's position can really relate to that. We've all had our moments of struggling with self-love and not having much confidence in ourselves, even if we want to fit in with a certain crowd and be accepted for who we are. Everyone in life's had their moments of wanting to change themselves and become something they're not, and even when you show your best efforts and try your best and to just prove yourself to those people, it's still not enough, and it's extremely hurtful and devastating feeling. And this episode honestly truly did resonate with me, as I truly did feel what Meowth was feeling, especially after being called and seen as a freak, even after trying to impress the one that he cared about and loved. I've personally had moments like this throughout my life in the past, especially when becoming friends with people who didn't really care about me. I've always wanted to try and change myself and just do anything to have that companionship and just be accepted, especially by those who weren't willing to actually get to know me and actually care. I just wanted to make friends and just be loved and just appreciated for who I was, but even when I tried my best, it wasn't enough, and I just truly did relate to Meowth's story arc, and I'm not even afraid to say or even worried to admit that this episode really did touch my heart and just means so much to me. However, though, what I really enjoy and appreciate about Meowth, and what I truly love about him, honestly, is his voice, as he was voiced by the incredible and just talented Maddie Blaustein. Honestly, Maddie truly put her heart and soul into the character, and she just added so much love and personality and just charisma into him, and it showed through his backstory and how she truly cared about telling his story and showing the emotions through her voice acting. And she just truly did a wonderful and incredible job as Meowth, and did a wonderful job at showing more of Meowth's gentler and human side that I've already touched on before. She was truly able to capture that part of Meowth's character through her voice, which I truly do appreciate. But her voice for Meowth, honestly, is something that really made me love Meowth as a character. And I think if she didn't voice Meowth, I don't think I would have ended up loving and adoring him as much as I do, honestly. I don't think I would have loved him as much if Maddie didn't voice him. And there is one more thing I wanted to add and mention here for this section here in the video. Something that honestly really made me smile and just touches my heart whenever I read and go back to it when it comes to Maddie voicing Meowth is that she says that she always played and voiced Meowth with the subtext that he just wants to be loved, along with mentioning how Meowth was such a joyful and a wonderful experience. And just reading that truly just warms my heart to the core, and that just truly shows how much Maddie truly cared about the character of Meowth. Truly seeing herself in him, she truly identified with him in ways that I don't think many of us would even expect or even realize. And as a matter of fact, as mentioned in the beginning of this video, part of the reason what made Maddie come out and transition as a trans woman was because of this episode. As a friend of Maddie, Aaron McQuaid, mentioned about Maddie in an article and compared her feelings with Meowth's during the episode, stating that Meowth was basically a human trapped in a Pokemon's body, and Maddie was truly able to relate to that. And again, just reading and listening to all this information about Maddie just both warms my heart and just saddens me, as I truly do believe she deserved more time on this earth. She still deserves to still be here, and I honestly believe that if she was still here today, she most definitely would be a voice for the LGBT and trans community itself, and she would be able to see how far we've all come and how far we continue to fight and go. And I honestly do believe that the world is a lesser and sadder place without her presence, as she's just truly missed to this day. And I really do hope that wherever she is now, whatever she's doing, I hope that she knows how loved and appreciated she was and still is. And she's somebody that many still really look up to for her work and her story. Something to truly strive and look up to. And I truly just cannot thank Maddie enough for her impact she's had on me, honestly, because especially through her roles in voice acting herself, I honestly see her as a very huge inspiration to me when it comes to voice acting and doing dubbing work. I'll just truly forever appreciate both her and her work, and I truly do find her real life story just incredibly deeply moving and impactful, as ever since getting into Pokemon myself, I've been researching and looking up so much information about the voice actors who brought the characters to life and how much of an impact they had on so many childhoods and how much Pokemon impacted them as a whole, but also about Maddie herself, especially as reading her story and journey, it made me want to read more about her and just know what type of person she was, as I've been going back and reading interviews and all types of blogs and information I can find about her. And just knowing about that Pokemon helped her transition and seeing how dedicated and close she felt to the show and just Meowth himself truly does bring a smile to my face and honestly makes me want to cry in a way. I'm not even joking, but I'll definitely link as much articles and stuff about Maddie as I can in the description below, as I honestly do encourage you all to listen and read all about her, as it's truly such a beautiful thing, and everything about Maddie and her story is truly beautiful and impactful. Before we end this video, I really just want to dedicate this section here to talk a little bit more about Maddie herself and sharing more info about her and showing more of her other work she's done, and not only voice acting in her voice roles, but also showing her history with writing and being an artist for things such as Marvel and Milestone comics. Madeline Joan Blaustein was born October 9th, 1960 in Long Island, New York. She was Jewish, was born intersex and assigned male at birth, and was the second oldest of 5 children. Her brother Jeremy is also a Japanese translator for video games and anime, and he's also worked on stuff like Metal Gear Solid. And speaking of Jeremy himself, in an article on the website Them, he even mentions that even as a child, Maddie had so much creativity and talent, along with saying how much of an incredible artist she was. and also said how she loved to draw and act and had the kind of boundless imagination that made her jump at the chance of being Dungeon Master for the Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. With Jeremy also stating and saying how Maddie made up her own language to a degree, wrote in runes of her own devising, and was able to illustrate almost everything and do all the voices in a very theatrical way. Back then, Dungeons & Dragons was all imagination, but Maddie herself made it magical. Before going into voice acting, Maddie worked for Marvel Comics in the 1980s as an editor and writer, while in the 90s she often wrote for DC Comics. That was until she ended up creating and making her own comic called DeathWish. And this comic is actually one of the earliest and very first and early examples of portraying not only a lesbian relationship, but also a transgender main character. Maddie began voice acting when she got casted as the voice of Meowth, who she voiced and played from 1997 until 2005. And becoming Meowth would have a huge impact on not only Maddie herself, but also her career as well. After Maddie transitioned and came out as trans, she praised 4Kids Entertainment, who were behind dubbing the English version of Pokemon around that time. She praised 4Kids for being so supportive when she came out. But her colleague and friend Eric Stewart, who also voiced and played Brock and James during the original 4Kids era, said this in the article on Vem. "It wasn't easy. I was one of the very few people who followed what name and pronouns she wanted to use, and there were many, many times where people wouldn't do it, or they forget, and it was hurtful. There were times where I could see that this wasn't the easiest thing for her to deal with in her career choice or with her family. But she didn't take it out on us, or her work, or on me. Instead, she came into work, tried to find ways to steal the show, and in many ways she did just that." Maddie Blaustein was honestly a creative, talented, and lovely person and individual. And although I myself haven't met her and didn't see her personally, and I'm not going to act like I did, but I can tell by the things people have said about her, including those who were close to her that worked with her beside her on Pokemon and got to know her for who she was, I can definitely tell that she was a great and wonderful person who deserved more time on this earth than what was given to her. She deserves more time here, but her legacy and what she brought to the world of voice acting, what she did and what she continues to do for the LGBT and trans community and being a voice for them will continue to live on through her presence and her roles and what she brought. And her impact and legacy will never die. It will continue to live on forever as years go on. And again, I hope Maddie knows that she's still very loved and appreciated, and the impact she had on so many really does affect those who she touched. Her story and career is something to really, truly look up to and strive for, and I do hope she knows that she's still loved and still very missed so very much, and that she's always loved and appreciated. I'm gonna dedicate and end this video to show off some of Maddie's voice acting roles, along with sharing something that Eric Stewart said about Maddie when answering a question at a Q&A, as a heartwarming and bittersweet way to end this video. I truly want to thank everyone here who sat down and watched this video, as this is something I've been planning out and wanted to make for some time now, and I do hope I was able to deliver. And I do hope you all loved and enjoyed it. Happy Pride Month, everyone, and just remember and know that each and every one of you are seen, valid, and loved, and know that you are strong and forever loved no matter what. I hope and pray that you all have a safe and happy, wonderful month, and I'll see you all next time. And thank you, Maddie. Rest in peace. You are dearly missed, and we will never forget you. Thank you for everything, and happy Pride, everyone.
I'd love to make money, Jimmy, but I put so much energy into learning how to talk that I just can't learn payday.
Oh well.
He got the contract to corral him, so it's time for Mr. Molasses to hit the trail. Yeah! And they used to say crime doesn't pay. Skitty, Skitty, I wrote this for you. You're so pretty, and I think I love you.
You're right. We do have a lot in common. The same earth, the same air, the same sky. Maybe if we started looking at what's the same instead of always looking at what's different, well, who knows?
Eat up! Is something wrong?
You ain't serving them enough chow. How are they supposed to wake when they're hungry all the time? They want you to make your dinwitches into dickwitches.
Oh, I'm real sorry, but if I make them thicker, I can't make money. Ah, that's through. Oh,
Tell the commanding generals that the United Federation will never surrender to terrorists.
Yes, Mr. President.
This planet was once saved from tyranny and annihilation by you two heroes. Now mankind must protect this peace at all costs.
Rouge the Bat. Situation understood. What would you like me to do? System reactivation countdown initiated. Backup power source. Spare magazines secured. Command program priority changed.
It's my hands. They hurt.
Your hands? All right. How's this? You see? Now you've forgotten all about your hands hurting.
What was that about? What did you do to him?
Are you happy? You're happy. Good. Now stay nice and quiet.
Hey!
And you should calm down. Don't worry. He'll live. However, he did almost die.
What? Almost died?
I see you're dueling well, Yugi. But let's see how well you do against me. That's right, I may be old, but with age comes experience and knowledge. Now why don't we begin, Yugi? You're finally here, Yugi. Your skills seem to be improving, but you still have a long way to go. Duel against me, and I'll teach you a thing or two.
I'd like to speak with you in private, Dr. Z. But in the meantime, I want this mess cleaned up by dinner time or there will be no dinner time. No, you're not. No one will be going anywhere until I see every plate is clean. Right. And don't think you're fooling anyone, Doctor. I can see those vegetables you're hidden under your plate.
Dr. K?
That's right, Sonny. And I don't think I saw you listed on the schedule. But I'm sure I can squeeze you in today.
That's enough, Dr. K. You better let these robots go.
I'm so scared. Let me see now. Maybe I should shake and tremble.
I'm warning you, Dr. K.
Oh, you're actually warning me. Why didn't you say so?
Each time we have a quarrel, it almost breaks my heart. 'Cause I am so afraid that we will have to part. Each night I ask the stars up above, why must I be a Pokemon in love?
So I worked with Maddie for many years because I was also directing. So I worked with Maddie on multiple shows. Ultimate Muscle was one of her favorites. She played Wally Tuskett on that one. And the great thing about Maddie was she would reference old school comedy because there really isn't anything new, right? We're all borrowing from something that happened before. And she was just like an encyclopedia of that stuff. And I'm sort of like, that's my thing. I'm into that as well. So directing her for the jokes was so easy because we would both reference things, you know, like, oh, this is so much like, you know, X, Y, and Z. Oh, exactly, and this and that. Or and I remember also she did some amazing. She's Grandpa on Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah. You know, so I mean the range was incredible, and I miss her a lot. I mean we had a very good relationship, good friends. But I know that if Maddie were here, she would say this: If you laugh at what she did, she'll feel like her presence here meant something. So revisit the shows and listen to her humor, because that is the most important thing to her. So, sorry, yeah.
Good point.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you for